And congratulations, you've all survived the second day of Pycon. Not a trivial task. My name is Yannick Gingras. You can say Gingras if it's hard to pronounce. I'm the co-chair of the conference, and I'll be leading this closing address while Jesse is getting some well-deserved rest. It's going to be fairly quick because we don't have much to announce. Everything went perfectly smooth. You guys are surprisingly well behaved. Maybe it's the weather. One thing that you should note and definitely not forget about, so maybe you want to take a note before you go to have some refreshments tonight. Tonight we spring forward, so you need to adjust your watches, your time devices, and your alarm clock so that you are sharp for tomorrow's lightning talks. The other thing is when you are in the rooms A1 to A4, these rooms are fairly tight given how many you guys are. And it would be good if you do a big effort to, cram a bit, like if there's a few free seats in a row, do an effort to get these free seats instead of taking the first seats next to the aisles. And that being said, I think that it's time to move forward with the raffle. So as you know, we have some really generous sponsors who gave us plenty of goodies to give to you guys. So we're going to give you guys some goodies tonight, and don't forget to come to the closing address tomorrow because that's where we have the biggest goodies. MongoDB gave us a copy of the MongoDB book. Massimo Di Piero gave us a bunch of Web2Py books. Pearson gave us a huge lot of books, among which the Python phrasebook, the Python standard library by example, the Python essential reference, and the core application programming. Now, how am I going to give you guys all of these? If you were here tomorrow, you probably remember that we learned yesterday about frisbees. So if you catch a frisbee, just go to see these guys, and you can redeem it for a book. Robert Brewer, developer of Web2Py, also a veteran frisbee golf.
Cherry pie.
Cherry pie. I'm sorry about that. He's going to help me on this one. Robert?
Great. And I have an announcement. If you are a disc golfer, there's an open space tomorrow morning. We're going to go play Santa Cruz. So find the open space and we'll go.
Whoa!
Got a bunch?
Yeah, all of them. Except these, I give you.
So colorful.
I'll take a few.
Yeah.
We have a few more.
Oh, you have more?
Yeah, so if you redeem them right away, we're going to reuse the frisbees. So try to keep a good pace. So, in addition to these books, one very generous sponsor, .cloud, is offering a kegerator. So for the kegerator, you need to redeem a red frisbee with a black outline. You guys got that? So I think we need Robert. We're going to randomize you. Okay, so I'm going to randomize Robert Brewer.
Point me in the general direction so I don't tell you.
And a few more books. And with that, I pass the mic to Noah, who's going to introduce this evening's lightning talk sessions. Thank you.
All right, well, as he said, I'm Noah Kantrowitz, and welcome to the Saturday evening lightning talk session at Pycon. Very conveniently, I'm now going to reintroduce you to Yannick, who is going to give us our first lightning talk of the evening, if he ever gets back up on stage. You're not done yet. All right, so Yannick will be teaching us about Pycon 2014 and 2015 and everything you have to do. Take it away.
All right, guys. Pycon 2014 and 2015, as you may know, is going to be in Montreal. Montreal is an island. It's fairly dense. We've got a bunch of universities. So here in Santa Clara, we enjoy really, really great weather. As you probably witnessed yesterday, it's kind of hard to get around and get some snacks, so it's going to be really refreshing to move to a downtown area where within walking distance we can get access to 4 or 5 breweries and many restaurants. But, oh, did I skip a slide? I think I skipped a slide. So we're going to have access to many downtown amenities, but you need a passport if you don't have one. So those of you who are not American, you already have a passport if you came here, so you're good. If you are, if you don't have a passport, then you should know that you need to apply in advance. Not that long in advance, but you need to think about it. And it's good for 10 years, so you know, even though there's a slight fee, it's an investment for many years. Now, here's the really cool thing. Today is Passport Day. So if you apply for your passport today, and I'm not sure if many of you are going to do that, but if you apply for your passport today, then you are waived, I believe, the expedited processing fee and a few other goodies. So it's really easy today to get a passport. Go on the travel.state.gov website for more information. And thank you. Looking forward to see you in Montreal.
All right, thank you very much, Yannick. It is now my pleasure to introduce Dan Callahan and Rami Chaudhary.
That's right.
Rami, who are going to tell everyone how to sprint at Pycon.
So yeah, as Noah said, I'm Rami.
I'm Dan.
And we're sprint organizers.
So, what is a sprint?
So Brad's really going to introduce it tomorrow, but in short, a sprint is kind of an open source hackathon. It's amazing, and
they start Sunday evening after the rest of the Pycon festivities. So, if you want to learn more about sprinting, coordinating a sprint, or anything else, we're your sprint coordinators this year. And we're hosting an open space tomorrow at noon in room H1B. The open space boards are kind of past where you got lunch, so go that way, learn more, noon tomorrow.
yeah. And if you're interested at all, please check the wiki. It's linked off the schedule page. Sign up under any project if you don't know what you want to sprint on, under a particular project if you do know, or put your project on there if you want to lead a sprint. If you have any questions or want to ask us anything in particular about the mechanics, or if you just want to say hi, come find one of us. So again, I'm Rami.
I'm Dan.
And have a great PyCon.
bpython.
All right, thank you very much, Dan and Rami. It's now my pleasure to introduce Amjit, who will be speaking about bpython, the interactive shell.
I don't have your video. Okay, now we should be. Hello, everyone. My name is Amjith. I'm going to be talking about bpython today. I did not write bpython. It was a gentleman from UK who wrote it, but I found it, I use it, I love it, so I figured I'll share it with everyone. So what's bpython? It's just a fancy interpreter for a Python interpreter, or a fancy interface for the Python interpreter, and it works only in Unix-like systems like Linux or OS X or FreeBSD, Solaris, all that kind of stuff. So some of you might be wondering, why do we need another interface for the interpreter? Because we already have IPython, and it does the job and all that stuff. Well, here's why: because it looks gorgeous. So that's why we should be looking at it. I know some of you are not convinced. I see a couple of non-believers, so I'm going to do a quick demo to show you that it does look awesome. All right, so that's bpython. That's how you launch that, and let me just get started. So let's create a new list. No big deal, but here's where it shines. So you'll notice that it already has syntax highlighting. So it's almost like an IDE in your interpreter. That's not everything. It actually shows you all the callables on a particular object. So now, since this is a list, I can call sort on that. And not just that, it also shows you what, as you type it, it automatically fills it, and it shows you the doc string for that. Now, let's do that, and there it is. So that's not just the thing that it auto-completes. It can also do auto-completion on any of the keywords, or if I start typing something, it'll fill any kind of local variables that is available in your namespace. Now let's see. You can do import, and any of the standard libraries, it'll automatically autocomplete. Any of the third-party libraries, it'll automatically autocomplete. And if you have a Python file in your local directory, let's say, for example, in this case, I have a Python file called math_funcs.py. It will autocomplete that also. And not only that, it can autocomplete whatever is callable on that module or your third-party module, and even show you the documentation for that. Or if you want to look at the source code, you can look at that too. And it's all syntax highlighted using pigments, so it looks nice. Now that's enough of that. Let's declare a new class. I'm sorry. Oh, I forgot self. Let's rewind. There we go. I forgot def init. Yeah, rewind. Thank you. Now you can declare an object of that type, and it'll show you what are the variables you need to fill in for that particular object. So you can do 2,3, and you can right away fill out what can be called on that, and so on. So in addition to that, you can also post this whole session into Pastebin. So if I press F8, it'll ask me whether to post it into Pastebin, and if I press yes, it will put it on bpaste.net, and it'll give you the URL. Or if you don't feel like posting it on the Pastebin, but you want to send it to someone else, you can save the whole session in a file, local file, and it'll be available for you there. There we go. And anything that I rewinded will not be saved as part of that. So that is bpython. I hope some of you were convinced. The way to install it is you can use pip install bpython, or if you live in the Stone Ages, you can still use easy install. So thank you very much. And you can find us on #bpython on Freenode. And there's a Google mailing list and all that usual stuff. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Amjad. It is now my pleasure to introduce Jeffrey Spies, who will be talking about Open Science Framework.
Hi, my name is actually pronounced Spies. It's okay though, everybody says that. So this is my dissertation project at UVA. My advisor and I have been sort of thinking through these problems for a while now. It's Brian Nosek, I should give him credit here. And when I talk about science, I'm talking about academic science. This is this idea, this grand idea of public knowledge building. And I want to differentiate that from, private science, which is the accumulation of IP for some competitive advantage. So we're only talking about, more the academic science. In that science, this ideal vision of it is inherently open. Yet we have these gaps between scientific values, these ideal values, and actual practices. In practice, things are very closed. And the system actually incentivizes this closed format of doing things. So the general goal of the open science framework is to create tools that decrease this gap, but do so in a way that fits in with a scientist's workflow, and at least doesn't make it less efficient. So we want to try to improve that workflow in order to push these values into actual practice. So I think, in the Python community, we all understand how successful the application of open source values can be. And we really need to think about this for science. And really that's transparency and openness. And there's a difference between the two. But I think either will solve a lot of the problems that we have. Right now we have these closed access journals where it costs someone $40 an article if they don't have a subscription, a $1,000 subscription from their library, thousands of dollars. We have papers with negative results. P is greater than 0.05 going into the file drawer, which biases sort of the way we view certain fields. We have data peeking. This is looking at data before you actually hypothesize something about it. And that's an okay way to do things. That's publish. Well, they rarely publish exploratory research. So people just don't say that they explored their data first. But that changes all of the expectations and probabilities that we believe go into those analyses. And this is a big problem. Okay, so transparency is like peeking in the window. Not really getting in there and being involved with a project, but just seeing everything at face value. So if you did look at your data ahead of time, you'll know that. Or if you did do some outlier analysis and you exclude some subjects from your data analysis, you make that public. And that's really all that is required to do good open science. There's not one way to do good science, but open science usually makes most of those ways good. And if you disagree with that, please talk to me afterwards. We're really trying to articulate these arguments because I think this is sort of a battle that a lot of people who are interested in open science are going to be facing. Oh, well, the open aspect is actually getting involved. So getting feedback at an early stage, allowing collaborators to get involved with the project. So people sometimes try to minimize collaboration so they have this single author or as few authors as possible so their name exists in that citation. If you have more than 5 authors in psychology, you don't see your name in the citation. So, but we really should welcome experts in individual areas to collaborate on these projects. Okay, so open is the ideal. Transparent is okay. For now, but if we start with transparency, I think we can move towards openness. If we provide the tools that allow for transparency, the next step to openness and all the arguments that we're making for openness should be right there for us. Okay, and I think this is really important now. We talk about the age of big data. This is this idea that data has gotten so large that it's becoming difficult to manage with our current tools. But it's sort of become transformative in what we can learn from that data. We don't have to rely on this null hypothesis testing where we're trying to look for these p-values. We just know sort of what the result is if we have millions and millions of rows of data. And it really transforms the way that we can do our analyses. And I think we're at the age of big science. We need massive collaborations, massive data collection, no more jack of all trades. We need experts doing what they do best. So I'm going to skip down to the study registry. We want to make this easy to use to document, organize, and search research. We want to timestamp everything, keep versions. It's collaboration software, version control software. Here's the technologies we're using. It's all Python-based. There's a huge to-do list of things that I think would be valuable for other projects as well. If you want to get involved, let me know. We're really welcoming collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Now, I'd like to introduce Barak Arslan, who will be speaking about RPClib.
Hello, everyone. Everyone can hear me? Yeah. Okay, RPClib is a project that I've been working on and off since 2010 now. What is it? It's actually an RPC library that makes it convenient for you to expose your services using multiple protocols. And it also forces you to have a well-defined API, simply because static typing actually works very well when your data comes from untrusted sources. So how does it work? Here's a simple function that returns the current date time in UTC. So we want to export it as, we want to expose it to outside world. So to do that, we first wrap it in a service space subclass. So here's our function. We do the necessary imports. We define our service definition, and we wrap it inside the in the srpc decorator, and we specify the return type. So second, we have to wrap this inside an application definition. An application binds one or more services with an input and output protocol. So here's our service. It's inside an interval because it has to take multiple service definitions. So here's our imports. The TNS stands for the namespace. It can be actually any arbitrary string. And in protocol and out protocol are what our function receives, gets the arguments for, and returns the response as. And it's called HTTP RPC simply because I wanted to avoid this pointless discussion around REST, what is more restful, what is less restful. I didn't want to go into that discussion. So anyway, we wrap the application now inside the transport. Here I chose the WSGI application transport, and now here the application variable actually contains a regular WSGI application that you can expose using any WSGI implementation that you like. So when you query it with curl, you get the current date time. So what if we wanted to expose this function using another protocol? For example, SOAP. RPClib also supports SOAP out of the box. And you just change the out protocol. You would change the input protocol as well, but then for the sake of discussion, I want to keep it this way, because otherwise you would have to use a proper SOAP client to issue requests. So anyway, when we query it with curl, you get this response. So when you query it with, when you change the output to XML object so that you want to, for example, get just the XML tag, here's what you get. And it actually also supports HTML microformats. So microformats, and you change the protocol to that, and you get a HTML fragment back. This is actually quite configurable. You can use, for example, spans instead of divs, and you can also change the way the datetime string looks. So you get the idea. RPSleep also makes it easy to implement another custom protocols. So for the sake of this discussion, we're going to implement a protocol that takes the same data and exports it as an SVG. So we have to do that, we need to implement some protocols in a protocol-based child. And here's our class. So we define the MIME type. We override the serialize function. The D variable in this case, why does it contain the return value? You'll have to look at the documentation to understand why it is so. So anyway, I skipped the boilerplate, and the out document now contains an LXML fragment. And I override the create out string function to write how the LXML fragment is actually returned as string. So I plug it in, and I get a proper, I get an analog clock. It's also easy to implement declarative restrictions on your input data. So here's a function that would that has what we normally would do when we want to check everything when we want to make sure that the coming month is a valid value. But if you do it declaratively, we just define the range, and we can do away with all this checking a boilerplate. So you have to also enable the validation function, and if you do that, you can once you supply a proper a valid value, you get a response back, and once you supply an invalid value, you'll get a 400 bad request response. So what's missing? A lot of things actually. It doesn't support JSON, protocol buffers, XML RPC, Thrift. Those are all popular protocols that you might want to use. It also doesn't support SMTP. It will be interesting. Files, SPDY, that's the new kid on the block, WebSockets, and many other things. There's actually a file that talks about that. So you can get additional information from the code is up there on the GitHub, and the example files are also up there. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much, Brock. Our next speaker up is Jason Krause, who will be speaking about Docket.
Hello. This presentation is on Django Docket, Django-style document store. Just a little background. I work at WebCube. We do CMS and e-commerce. I've been doing Django for 4 years, over. It's great for our clients, and I love Django, but clients, they're always looking to add new features. They'll ask us to tack on more fields to the model, and that results in code being fragmented, having to maintain migrations, and we try other things to get around that, like maybe have an app that adds a feature to another app, but that involves more queries. We've done things with EAV tables and JSON fields, all to try and give our clients the ability to extend models and introduce new functionality without trying to change our code. So those things didn't work out very well for us. I mean, they work, but always feel dirty afterwards. So I started working on this project called Django Docket. And the idea is you build documents in Django a lot like you would do models. And the whole experience is supposed to be batteries included. So that way, when you build these documents, it will integrate with the admin. It will integrate with class-based views. It will integrate with forms. And it's also back-end agnostic, so it can be powered by Django's ORM, MongoDB. Looking forward to doing a CouchDB implementation. But there's one key difference: no joins. So here's an example of a document in Docket book. So we have book document, which has a field author, which references another schema. So, we can create this really complex document. And you would query it a lot like you would a model, but there's one key difference, and that is instead of defining indexes on fields, you define indexes on query operations. So it's like the whole thing that you're indexing. As far as the admin support is concerned, collections show up in the admin, you get all the CRUD-based operations. there's some more complex fields in there that the admin also supports, but I still wanted more. I mean, here I have documents and I see that it's great for content. Don't have to worry about migrations. They can be created on the fly, and I have efficient indexing, and they can represent some complex ideas. As a programmer, I don't want to have to deal with code every time a client's like, oh, add this field, add this field. Rather, I would prefer to empower our power users to create document and views. And so that's what Docket CMS tries to do, and it accomplishes it by allowing you to create collections in the admin, attach viewpoints, which are basically views, configurable views. And right now we have like list, detail, category views with filtering. And they don't have to necessarily use collections. They can use models as well. And I look forward to adding some more functionality, like have a form that people submit and it would populate a collection, would be a possible viewpoint. Also add in API and search. There's also another concept called mixins, and the idea is that it extends collections and viewpoints, introducing new functionality, changing how things are rendered. And that's how we do widgets in Docket CMS. But there's a demo right there for you to see. Please be nice. It's alpha, and it's only like one dyno on Heroku. So check it out, and with luck, we might be using it in WebCube. So that's it.
All right, thank you very much, Jason. Our next speaker for the evening is Sam Clark, who will be speaking about Python in the wild.
Okay, is it just me, or Pycon seems like surfing? It's tiring, but in a really good way. Okay, I'm going to be talking just very briefly about developing with Django in the Galapagos Islands, which is where I'm based. We've seen a lot of Python tutorials and lectures today, in the last couple of days as well. And they go into the inner workings of Python. This is nothing about that. I'm going to be telling you about using Django and Python in a kind of unusual, isolated setting that maybe you haven't come across before. Hopefully it inspires you, the fact that we can use this in different places around the world. So this is where I work. This is the Galapagos Islands in the Pacific Ocean. We're about 1,000 kilometers outside of Ecuador. This is the NGO that I work for. It's a scientific NGO founded in 1959, basically with the intention of generating scientific data about the Galapagos Islands. It provides a platform for scientific research in the area. Myself, I've got a background in biology, and I've recently graduated or migrated myself to web programming. So this is where I work. This is my day-to-day. And we have a really large development team. It's a massive, massive development team. That's it. There's 2 people working in, as you can see, a very organized office environment. So everything that you guys maybe are used to of, like really fast internet connections and, server stacks, this is the opposite of what we have to deal with. So working in Paradise is really nice, but we have certain specific challenges, which, technology-based internet is hit and miss. At the very best, it's a dial-up connection. We're also an NGO. We're funded by donations, so our technology is limited, to say the least. We do have frequent power outages. It's a weekly event. And we do not have a Python community in the Galapagos Islands, and really not a Python community in Ecuador. So any problems we come across, Stack Overflow, notwithstanding, we have to figure out that stuff ourselves. So what do I have to deal with day to day? We have a lot of scientific data generated over 50 years, a lot of collaborating scientists coming to the Galapagos Islands. And it exists in a variety of formats. We have filing cabinets full of paper, we have access databases, we have Excel spreadsheets, and it's our job to try and make something out of that we can present to the rest of the world. Why do we use Python and Django to do this? Well, obviously, the open source is very nice when you're an NGO because we don't have that much money to spend. Python, as you all know, is an amazing community. It's wonderful to have you guys supporting us. The scientific libraries in Python really lend itself to what we do with scientific data within the Charles Darwin Foundation. GeoDjango we're just getting started with, but because we have such a large geospatial component of our data, then it's something that we're really starting to appreciate more and more. And of course, these things are really a lot of fun. So what we're trying to do is provide a platform, a portal where people from outside of the Galapagos can view our scientific data. Basically, we have things like the species checklist, which is one of the most comprehensive in the world. We have our own journal. We have a specimen database, which is one of the most comprehensive as well. Climate database, which is the most continuous record of climatology in the world, barring possibly competition with Hawaii. It's contentious at the moment. A sneak peek in what we're building at the moment. Don't go to charlesdarwin.org or the URL, whatever you're looking up at the moment, because that's the old version. We are not proud of it. The new version is coming, so don't expect to see something that I'm talking about now. So it's horrible, but we are changing it. We're trying to coincide our new launch with the International Day for Biological Biodiversity, or Diversity, on 22nd of May. Hopefully that's going to be rolled out. And I just want to say thanks to my team. I want to say thanks to Pycon for allowing me to be here. They helped out financially, and I have a lot of respect for that. And at the moment, we're looking for Django developers, people that want to collaborate on an interesting project. That could be remotely. It could also involve coming to the Galapagos Islands and spending some time and helping us. So if you're in that camp, please come and see me at the front after the talks are finished. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much for that very tempting offer. I think you'll get more than a few hits on that. Next speaker, Julia Ellman, will be speaking about using less with Django. Please give her a hand.
Hello, testing, yes. First of all, I was kind of curious, got a big group of people here. I'm curious, how many of you are Django users in the room? Raise your hand. Wow, that's awesome. Awesome, right on, thank you. So today I'm going to talk about using less with Django in your workflow and stuff like that. I'm not going to get into less versus Sass or any of that stuff for anyone that's familiar with those two. So first of all, what is less? So less extends CSS with dynamic behaviors such as variables, mixins, operations, and functions. So what is that? Basically, it's an easier, more seamless way for you or your front-end people to be able to write CSS in a very simple manner. We use it at Cactus Group right now. So for example, if you want to, instead of constantly having to write a hexadecimal number for a color, you can actually say dark red, so in this example here, or blue, and then you can, here it's also showing sort of a nesting way that you can do it as well. So, and you can go on to lesscss.org, I believe, in order to see how all those awesome little functions and things that you can do with less. So workflow. So you have this less file that you have to compile and then put up somehow as CSS in order for it to work with your website application. So what is the workflow you want? Well, I really wanted to be able to version control my less file because it didn't make sense to do it any other way. So I kind of looked at third-party apps in order to make this a CSS file where basically it compiles locally and you have your CSS file and you push that up or whatnot. But I didn't really like that so much. So let's say you have your CSS file, you've worked on your less file, you compile it locally with like a third-party application, and you push your CSS file up. Then if someone says, oh, hey, well, I'm going to pull that from version control and actually tweak it and push back up, well, then poof, there goes your less file, which makes for a very, very sad panda. So we started using something called Django Compressor, which some of you may or may not be familiar with. So this is something that helps you compress your JavaScript and CSS files. So And I put the URL in here for you to read more about how it works. So this is basically the parts that you will need in order for this workflow to work. You're going to have to put this in your settings.py file. So you're going to have to put your compressed precompilers and list that into your settings, which there are different settings for not only less, there's also for SAS and multitudes of other things that you want to use. So this is not the only thing that you can use a Django compressor. And then you're also going to have to set your internal IPs for the next bit to work right here. So the part if debug, you're going to put into whatever file you have your less file in or your CSS in. So you can set if debug, so debug, you're working locally, so hopefully you're only debugging locally, not in your production environment. So if debug, you're going to actually use only the client side compilation, which I do not recommend doing this on your production site. Do not do this. So then in your else statement, it's saying to use Django compressor, so compress CSS. And then it'll compress your actual less file. So you don't even have to think about it, which is great, because we can be lazy and we don't have to think about it. And we can just keep working on our less file and be happy and everything's great and move forward. So anyway, that was my talk. You can feel free to follow me on Twitter, ask me questions. And then I also wrote a little blog post about this whole talk that goes into more detail that I couldn't go into probably in the 5 minutes that I have, so at this URL. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Julia. Next is a man who I hope needs no introduction, Ben Peterson. We'll be talking about why Python 3.3 will be awesome, which it will be.
Yes. Okay. Hi. Usually I go by Benjamin. I'll survive, but. So, yes. Python 3.3 is probably the release I've been most excited about in my nearly 4 years as a C Python core developer. And my favorite feature is called PEP 393. And since you probably don't have an index of PEP names to features to numbers in your brain, I'll have to tell you what it is, but I have to apologize. First, let me give you a hint. Oh, crap, fonts. It's supposed to be a poop character, sorry. And I really have to apologize for the next slide, because when you're writing your talk in 15 minutes, sometimes you slacken on actual content. I don't read Reddit that much, I promise. But the PEP 383 gets rid of the distinction between UCS2 and UCS4. And for those of you who appreciate a more concrete addition, I have why this is so awesome. And basically, Unicode in Python 3.3 will actually be a code point abstraction. If you index, you will never get surrogates. It will be composed characters. And the way this is implemented is we can have several different sizes of data types in the Unicode implementation. So it could be all ASCII, and we'd only use 8-bit size characters. And so this also improves memory and speed too, because of cache efficiency. And so this makes us better than other Unicode-enabled languages, such as Java. And I hate to say this, but it actually makes us as good as Perl. Another great thing in 3.3 is we have unified I/O error and OS error, because it was not really confusing which one you would get. You'd get I/O error in you'd get OS error in the OS module and I/O error elsewhere. And so those are unified. We also have custom subclasses, so you don't have to check the error no anymore. So you could just catch the file exists error or the timeout error instead of the random crap with error now. There's also a new syntax for delegating to subgenerators. So instead of iterating through it manually in generators, you could just write yield from an iterator, and that will transparently flatten the iterator out into your generator. And this also handles send and throw correctly. And there's a smattering of other stuff. The packaging module, which should improve the distutils situation. We've also fixed the memory view and buffer protocol, which was introduced in Python 3 sort of. But it was kind of broken, and we fixed the reference counting issues, memory stuff with that, and it has more feature support. Unicode literals, which has been mentioned before, are back, so that should help with compatibility between Python 2 and Python 3. There's a new attribute on modules classes called qual name, which it gives you the qualified name, so if you nest classes, it's the lexical name instead of the module name. So if you have nested classes, it'll give you the class 2 and not just the module, which module would give you. And we've wrapped new APIs in OS, including the open those add functions. And we also have extended Linux file system attribute support. And we've also added syntax for suppressing the exception context and cause for being printed with the raise from syntax. And 3.3 is not supposed to come out until August, so there's still more things in the pipeline. There's a module called regx, which is a re-implementation of the re module. It adds a slew of new features. We're hoping to get that in, like Unicode ranges, Unicode character classes, lots of bug fixes. I think it's faster too. C decimal, which is it's a C implementation of the decimal module. IPADR, for a library for IP addresses, which almost made its way into 3.1 and 2.7, but we're trying again this time. And hopefully, I hope to get this done during the Pycon sprints. I hope I can review Brett's import lib branch, and we can finally get import written in Python. So there's a lot to look forward to Python 3.3, and I can only hope it improves Python 3 migration. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much for that. And now I would like to introduce our final lightning talk for the evening. Brian Veloso will be talking about Hub.
All right, how's everybody doing? Awesome. Well, I'm going to talk about Hub, which is a plugin which pretty much introduces Git to GitHub. I'm Brian Veloso. I'm a designer at GitHub. I know that GitHub is a Ruby shop, but I am a Pythonista at heart. I also like to throw tables often. All right. Well, let's put that back and get started. So let's talk about Hub. Hub was created by our benevolent founder, defunct, Chris Wanstroth, and it's pretty much a wrapper around Git that just provides so many new features to allow you to work with GitHub a lot easier. So let's install it. For those of you that are on Mac and use Homebrew, you can easily brew install Hub. If you don't have a Mac, but seriously, this was taken last night. Perfect timing. Thank you, Kenny. You can clone it too. This is actually the real, the canonical way that Chris would like you to install it. You can see this on the man page. I'll give you the URL later. Obviously, Homebrew is better. So let's take Hub for a spin. Once you get it installed, you can do things like Hub checkout Django. Notice there is no Git, Git. I forget the prefix. The URL prefix Git there anymore. All you need is a username and a repository. If it's your repository that you want to check out, just check out with the repository name. You can use Hub Browse, and it will if you're in a branch, say working on a pull request, it will bring you right to GitHub with your pull request pulled up. And you can also use Browse to just open up any repository on GitHub from the command line. Hub also allows you to push to multiple remotes, so if you need to push to both GitHub and Heroku at the same time, it's comma delineated. You can have that as long as you want. You can also create projects from the command line. So what this command will do is create not only my local working copy, but it will also go to GitHub, talk to the GitHub API, and create the project on GitHub under my username and / flipping tables, et cetera, et cetera. Forking is also something you can do on the command line using hub fork. What it will actually do, the canonical way to do this is to download the project you'd like to fork, run hub fork on it, and what that will do is create a new remote under your username pointing to your copy. So that means that upstream is now origin, and your copy is under your username. Makes it a little easier to submit pull requests if that's what you'd like to do. We also allow you to open pull requests from the command line. One of my favorite features, if you use this inside a branch, it will open up your editor. You can the first line's the title, second line's the description. The completion is the URL of the pull request, which you can then just get browsed to go to. So, time to blow some minds. There is a nice little additive to pull requests that will allow you to do this. Pull request -I and the issue number will allow you to attach a pull request to an existing issue. This is something that unfortunately is in the UI, will be in the UI hopefully soon. But since the API allows it, this is a great way to now not have to reference issues separately from their pull requests, but make issues pull requests themselves. Other than that, a little pro tip, since Hub is a wrapper around Git, it wraps everything. I only went over a few of the things that Hub adds to Git. So I really would encourage you to alias Git to Hub. It only adds to your experience. It doesn't take away from it. Here's the URL on GitHub to get it and read the man pages. So many more features that I can't talk about in 5 minutes. And yeah, your homework is to use Hub to clone Hub. And that's all we wrote. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. That concludes our lightning talk session for the evening. I've been asked to remind you that Yelp has their restaurant buses at 7 o'clock if you are interested in finding somewhere that isn't the hotel restaurant. And if not, I will see you all hopefully tomorrow morning at 8:30. And remember that there is a time difference of 1 hour.